Welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. We got a big one. It's a breakfast show. Danny and I are prepped. We are so lucky. I'm Mark Pavratsky here with my co-host Danny Foxhoven. Danny, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good. Got my coffee, and we have Nicole here, so really excited.
We're blessed. So we have with us all the summer. Danny would be bringing in, these big timers. Now it's like, God, it's so cool. We have her bringing in these people to help shine a light. We got our own local big timer, Danny. We have the USL W Coach of the Year, Nicole Lukic. Nicole, where's that trophy? Bust it out.
It's one of those certificates.
It's up here. I didn't get anything, but it's right here. It's right here.
You didn't get a trophy? We're gonna make one. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I would gladly accept that from you, Mark.
Okay, we'll talk to Pence Homes, the sponsor later. No, but honestly, Nicole, it's a few weeks out. It's such a quick season. I know, like everyone around the team, it was really intense. It was really fun, but it was really intense. So you've had a couple weeks to kind of chill. But when you think back now, just what are the main memories? Like what comes to mind when you're thinking back on the season?
Oh boy, that's a big question to start. I don't know. I just think of all the fun we had, honestly. And like you said, it was a lot of work leading up to it. And then it just felt like it went so fast. I have enjoyed just, when I'm on social media, like yesterday, for example, out of nowhere, the penalty kick Mayu scored was just like on my feed for some reason. So I've enjoyed little things like that, like just looking back at different moments of the season, lots of the goals we scored. And mainly now too, I really enjoy seeing our players that are in their college seasons having success at the beginning of their seasons. And I'm excited to continue watching them throughout the fall.
Yeah. Going into now having a couple weeks afterwards, and your time leading up to it was so quick. It was such a quick, now we're starting the club, the season's about to start, and now we're, just in the recent weeks afterwards. What were your expectations going into it? Did the season overall, as the first season, did it surpass your expectations? Was it kind of like what you thought it would be? What about that?
Yeah. Well, myself and the other coaches, we had two main goals for the season. One was player experience and knock that out of the park, give the players the most professional feeling team that we could. And then two was to win the championship. So it fell a little short on two, but overall for a first year, I think we're really happy with how things went. A lot of player feedback has been that the team felt professional, even though it's pre-professional. I think our fans had a lot to do with that and creating that game day atmosphere. So overall, looking back, I think it went pretty well. I think we have set a good foundation with a lot of the things that we wanted to set up. I hoped the game day experience would be like that, but you just never knew. And especially in the playoffs, those were just over the top amazing. I could say with confidence that none of our players have ever experienced an environment like that in game day. So that's really special.
Sure. I will say
there's probably other pros who haven't experienced that, right? Well, Danny didn't even, you got
that's exactly what I was going to say is I know some settings, even in a professional setting, where it wasn't that. I think it's gotten a lot better now, but especially at the beginning, this definitely outdid that. And I will say, on game days when I showed up, the first game, I remember being like, oh my gosh, I did not expect this. I did not expect that kind of a turnout. I did not expect that kind of a kind of an atmosphere, and you guys obviously played so well. I just felt like all of it really was this big picture. Did you expect that kind of a turnout from the get-go?
I mean, that's what I was telling the players. I didn't put a number on it. Just envision it, sellout crowd. We're gonna do this. But I knew, I can specifically remember this one moment in my head when we were walking out to the very first game and all those people were there. And I was just like, we just have to be good enough tonight. to make them want to come back.
Yeah.
But that was like the only one time where I was like, okay, I feel like a little pressure from all
Yeah,
that.
sure.
But I think after that, the team really absorbed wanting that. And then we started playing better, and I think that helps bringing people back and stuff like that.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
I think also, Nicole, if you didn't feel pressure and nerves walking out of that stadium, something's probably wrong with you, because I think you should. I mean, that's wild. And I can tell you, I joked with Danny after we did the very first pregame. I rewatched it, and I never really had rewatched my shows. I don't like listening to my voice. And I was talking at like double speed because I was so anxious to like, are we going to do it right? And there's all these people, and it's the game. So we, I think, experienced the same thing too during the past. Well, I wanted to ask you, Nicole, so all the things, I watched the interview we did with you in, it must have, I think, December. So it was like, there wasn't, it was called Minnesota Women's Soccer Team. We didn't have any players. Sarah Fuller hadn't signed yet. And you talked about kind of what you addressed with Danny, like the pre-professional expectations you wanted to have for players. So more than just playing, like, housing and costs and things like that. So how do you think, obviously we could tell, I mean, it seemed like the players in terms of the game and the team had a really fun summer. How do you think it went in terms of like supporting them in the overall sense and what the club was able to do in that aspect?
I mean, I think, I could go down so many paths right here, but I mean, you talked about one of them, housing, right? Which was something probably our team was able to do that a lot of other teams weren't able to do. We had half of our team in housing, and to not have to put them into host families, I think is pretty cool too, because it gives them their own space and they don't have to deal with that awkwardness of living in someone else's space. So that allows them to be themselves a little bit more. So that was really important. And I think if you ask the players, like the thing that they just love the most was probably the training environment. Not only being able to play games at TCO, but to be able to train there, have a locker room, have our own space where players could come in early, eat some snacks, hang out, listen to music, be a team. And then I think one thing I was really happy about was just the player mentality that we had on the team. Everybody wanted to be there to train and get better. And whether it was like for our season or long-term for just themselves as a player, I thought that was really special. And, we never really had to talk about like playing time that much as a team, or like have kind of those conversations that sometimes drag teams down. Because I think overall, every single player felt like we were investing in them, whether or not they were getting game minutes, because we were able to keep the training environment so high. And even on game days, our assistant coaches got there early and did a training for the players who weren't playing. So I think back to your question of, resources and supporting the team, I think that the fact that the club, the founders were able to support the coaching staff's vision of investing in every player like that and traveling more than 18 players so that we can continue to invest in everybody. I think that was really huge and maybe something that other teams weren't able to do.
Yeah. No, they'd roll in with two vans. Absolutely. They'd roll in 2 vans. They couldn't take more than 15 or what sometimes some of the teams.
Yeah. Which I get it. Like it's expensive to have a team like this. And we just blessed to have so many great community owners behind this team that allow our players to have a different experience.
Yeah, definitely. And talk about, one of the things we know, we knew this during the season, is that as this team got attention, because you had to recruit this team from scratch, like you said, on some promises, on some details, the $1 million helped, it showed something behind the team. But I think recruiting the team next year will be a little different because this team is as visible as any, maybe lower women's team, ever. I don't know. There's probably some people I'm leaving out in history, but talk about that. Talk about how many messages maybe you're already getting, maybe hearing from coaches. I know, just tell us the biggest names you've heard from, Nicole.
Yeah. I mean, last year, I said this is another reporter who was asking me about this. We put together a PowerPoint, and it was January. It was before it was even Aurora.
Mhm.
So it was like, hey, come join this snowy team that doesn't have a place to play yet. Doesn't have a
Nicole, can we get that PowerPoint?
maybe. All these things. And it was just like, but I promise, like, this is going to be huge. We have all these community owners. Like, there's something here. So I just give our players, and obviously then, the logo came out, the branding came out, the stadium came out, some more things started coming out in February, March. But I give the players on the roster in 2022 just so much credit because they were able to see the vision before it was actually a real thing, which for young people can be a really hard thing to do and thing to trust in people, especially I didn't really have too many previous relationships with them. So they're just trusting me or the assistant coaches. But yeah, I think this year will be different. We'll be able to, show highlights of the season, show one picture of the stadium absolutely packed.
Yeah.
I know a lot more college coaches. Yeah, a lot more college coaches know who we are now.
Yeah.
So
and the environment you're setting, like they can trust you now and trust your vision and trust like sending their players here for, a couple months out of the summer, which I know is a big thing for college coaches. Talk to us a little bit about how you found those players. Like, how did you build the team? What was your mentality around that? And what did that look like?
Yeah. Well, this is another PowerPoint.
I'm suspicious that maybe my brother was involved. He likes to make PowerPoints. I'm wondering if Matt also.
So, right before the season, actually, myself and the other coaches, we went to the Minnesota Tucker Center. We were speakers at the Women's Coaches Symposium, and we gave a presentation on where we found our players because this was April, and we found them. So it was a pretty good mix. We had 2 tryouts last year. I think we ended up getting 4 players from the tryouts. Let's see if I can name them. Mariah Wynn. Christelle.
Megan Dahl before she got hurt, right?
Yep. Olivia.
Yeah.
And Taylor Kane. So, those tryouts were fun. And I don't know if we would have found those players, and they ended up being key players on the team. I'd say most of our players came from just working our networks between myself and the assistant coaches, talking to college coaches, watching some film. Jenny Clark was huge for us with her Utah connection.
Clearly.
So she worked with Jill Bennett before at Utah Tech, and then she knew the coaches at Utah State, where Addie and Kelsey came from. And then that's actually how we got Cassie, our goalkeeper coach, too, is because she saw something about a Utah player coming over here, saw some kind of post that led to her applying for the job. So that was pretty cool. The younger players, Shelby and the Rapp sisters, I knew previously from working with them in Rush Soccer. I'm looking at our roster here. Your brother, Matt, he led us to Morgan Turner, big Minnesota player, playing at DePaul. That was a good connection for us.
Shout out to the big dog.
Yep. Yelena came from UIC, which is Coach David Nicolic there. I played for David back in the day at Milwaukee. So just, kind of a combination. And then, of course, just some players randomly reached out, like Cha, for example.
Yeah.
What?
Campbellville. Go Campbellville.
Yeah, we got a lot of emails that were just like, hey, I think it might be a good fit for this team. Can you watch my film?
Yeah.
And I remember like Segment Cha, Campbell's, I was like, what is this? Like, Well, then I started watching the film and I was like, Jenny, I think we got one here.
I was going to ask, I mean, did you like know, okay, we need, looking at as you started fitting players in, now we need another 2, let's say outside backs, we need another midfielder, and then you were specifically looking for that in your, you know, in looking at all of this, or were you kind of just looking at players to fit in when you could?
I think a little bit of both. We started like by trying to go the positional route, make sure at least had our bases covered. But then towards the end, it's just like, you know what, if they can play, they can play, and we'll figure it out down the road. Like the Raps, for example, they're all pretty versatile, and they were added towards the end, and it was just like, well, whatever. Like I know they can play, so we'll see how they fit into our style once we get on the field.
Yeah,
that would have been pretty hard to imagine the season without the Rap triplets, to be honest. Because they played each phase of the game and they were all impact. You know, it started just Eli starting, and then all of them were so vital. And yeah, it's frustrating having so many of these players in college, Nicole, because like you, it's like I want to try to tune into Oklahoma soccer to watch the Raps. So it's like, you know, so you knew some of the players, and then some you knew of. It's like Morgan Turner, you know how many, you know, she scored a lot of goals at DePaul. But I know Danny and I were talking about this. How many of the players, you know, or which ones maybe, whether how you knew them before or what you saw early in training, then just surprised you with the growth in this environment, or what they were able to show different than you know, anticipated from just scouting prior?
Good question. I got my roster here. I'm making sure I think of everybody. Well, I mean, Addie Simmons was originally brought in to be a center back.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good one because she stepped up and became our holding mid and was a really integral piece of what we were doing every single day. I actually talked to her yesterday. She is back to playing center back at Utah State, if you're wondering. Mariah Wynn at tryouts. I mean, we knew she was fearless and feisty, but we weren't. At first, we thought she might be an outside back for us. So we kind of moved her around until we found her spot and her ability to just, you know, start the press for us and just always put the other team under pressure and somehow always find a way to get the ball into the box, whether or not you think she's about to fall down and roll out of bounds. The ball ends up in front of the net somehow.
Yeah, she has the eye of the tiger, Nicole.
That's a great way to.
I mean, self-applied to the leg, but she does literally have the eye of the tiger. Or lion. I don't know if it was some big cat.
Yeah, I love that. Ari Del Moro, she was going to be a center mid for us, but I think just because of her calm presence and her ability to keep possession really well, we've had her play more in the wide space so that she could help us kind of change the tempo. Like, for example, like she's a very different player than Mariah, who's very fast and forward all the time. If we needed somebody to slow the game down and help us get our rhythm back a little bit more, Ari was a good piece for us out wide in that sense. Abby O, you know, went through a process that nobody else on the team really did. We had an invite-only tryout the first week of practice, and she claimed she won the last spot on the roster. So for her to go from that to then, you know, starting in the McLean game and winning player of the game for that game, like that's a pretty cool story too.
Yeah, that is. That's really amazing.
Talk about your tryout players, Nicole. This is something that I think we would reference once in a while, or not tryout players, training players, I'm sorry, because that's a cool thing also that really you probably only see in a team with this type of training environment. Most of the teams in this league might have bigger rosters than yours overall, but they only, you know, it's because people come in and out, people are busy. But you, to supplement and have a core team, you had the three training players. So forgive me, I don't remember their names, so I just want to give them some shout out those three players and what they meant to the team, because we would see them training with you. Obviously, for practice, they were integral if you needed to rest or get setups, you know, for different like tactical setups on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Maya Dempsey, Tyler and Ava. Maya and Tyler at Hamlin and Ava's at UNC Asheville. Those were our 3 training players, and they were incredible. They always showed up, had a great attitude, played whatever position we needed them to play, did as many reps as we needed them to do. And I think if you ask them, they would all say that they got better from the experience, and they loved being a part of the team. I personally, I think one of the biggest ways they helped was just on that day before the game, where we don't really want to run too many hard minutes on people. Like, they were 3 people that we were like, you know what, we need you to be this person in this position and just keep going. And then on game day 2, for the players that were not playing and they had those trainings, being able to add 3 more numbers to a low group of numbers, to go from 6 to 9 players, that just allows you to do so much more on that day. But yeah, they were great, and I'm excited that 2 of them are here in town. I'll probably go watch one of their games at least this fall, and Ava's going to let me know a good one to watch online. So yeah, they were a crucial piece.
Yeah, that's huge, because we talked about it throughout the season, where a lot of other teams, even when they were traveling, had 14 on their roster, or carried 18 on their roster, total full. So for you guys being able to have not only the 3 training players, but then have people like that numbers travel with you too. Talk a little bit about how that helped in the overall performance throughout the season.
Right.
I mean, it was huge in my mind, because we could play, a lot of our games were Friday, Sunday. So not a huge break in between. So we could play a group on Friday. We wouldn't have to commit yet to what our Sunday roster is. We could see how Friday went. And then if anybody picked up dings, or, we just put more minutes on someone Friday than we wanted to. We had this, 6, 7, 8 players that didn't play any minutes that we could rotate in for Sunday to give those other players a rest, not just for our season, but to it was important to our staff to make sure players are not being overused, because they're going immediately into their college season. And we wanted them to feel ready for their college season, not I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Sure.
No, it seemed like you did a great job with it. I mean, I don't know if it was, the simplicity of my observation, but it did feel like there was a trend that you'd get 15 minutes in the second half, the other team would be thinner. And whether it was you made better subs, or you had deeper subs, or that your team had good chemistry, that it worked, it always felt like eventually you wore people down. Eventually, either the quality or the fitness from, again, you're training every day. Some of the teams only travel a couple, train a couple times. I'm going to take a quick break to do an ad read for our sponsor, Pence Homes, the Podfather. This show is brought to you by Pence Homes. Whether you're buying or selling, or you're looking to do some projects in your current home, Nate and Lydia can help find you what you need. Need financing for a basement remodel, looking to add a second bath, or even a workspace that now you're working from home? Pence Homes and their preferred lender, Angie Shearer, with Luminant Financing, can help find the right financing tool for you. Go to pencehomes.com and learn more, or find them on social media at Pence Homes. And I'll say, this is just off the cuff. I'm a bartender, and I'm in the bar I work at, the Black Heart, and Pence Homes tips very well when they come into the bar. So from a service employee, from what it's worth, from a service employee, thank you, Pence Homes. Danny, I know we talked about this, and I know you were a coach at the D2 level. And one of the things that was really cool about this team, all female coaching staff, so rare. I think, Nicole, in the show from the winter, you said maybe you'd only had 1 female coach ever in your whole life, or you'd never had an all females. So what do you think that meant to your players and to you? I mean, doing it this year.
I mean, a different experience for me, for sure. I've never, at the senior level, worked with females on staff before. So that was a very cool experience for me. Different, and nothing against the guys, because I have a lot of really awesome male mentors. it was different. And, I liked it. The four of us got along really well. We're able to communicate open and honestly, which I really appreciated. And I think for the players, it was different. And hopefully it was different in a good way. I mean, you'd have to ask them, but I think for the most part, they enjoyed being around us. And we had good chemistry, not only just the players, but staff to players as well.
Yeah. I feel like that's such a fine balance to find not only your staff that really gets along, but then the staff that can translate to the players and communicate to the players in a way that resonates with them. But you could tell by the way that they just had so much fun throughout the year that you guys had a good working relationship. So, so it was really fun to watch from our perspective as well.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, they told us directly they appreciate it. Nicole.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did.
Every player we talked to, had said they never had an all-female staff, whether they've had one assistant. You'll see a lot of women's teams where it's like a guy, and a second assistant is like a player who just left or something. But and it's also not just the, I think Jen Lyric said it very well when we interviewed you before the season. It's not just women coaching staff, it's women with feminist ideas, and because of course women and men both live with the patriarchy that we have inside of us. So it's finding it started with the founding of the team being core to those ideals too. So I think we all appreciated getting to see that. Oh, Danny, did you freeze up?
Sorry, cut. Yeah, so it keeps out.
It's coming.
Sorry.
Sounds like it's coming back. But I think I'll just. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
She's back.
Thanks. I was gonna say, at the end of the season, as a player myself, I've been in their shoes before where it's a really short season. It's really, a ton of things going on at once. And then you turn around and you go back to this really long season in college. And oftentimes if you just played all the way through, that could feel really exhausting. But I will say, I feel like a lot of the girls came away with more energy at the end of the year, more excited about what they were doing with their own careers, going into back to their, they're more established teams with it. It's a longer time. Did you also feel like that? I mean, you talked about it just briefly where you were saying we wanted them to be, not exhausted going into this. Was that part of your mentality?
Yeah, I think that definitely, drove us to make some of the decisions that we did. Obviously keeping winning in the forefront as well, because they're never dropping them. But I think because, the relationships that they were able to create so quickly, they bought into what we were doing really quickly. It allowed us to just, have this trust in each other that, hey, maybe you're used to starting, but today you're going to come off the bench and you're only going to get 20 minutes. So make the most of it. And them just being like, okay, that's my role today. That's great. Thanks for at least letting me know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, that was something that really helped, was just being open and honest with them. And when I'm saying that specific one in my head, I don't know if you remember Maya Hansen. She came off the bench. I don't remember what game. It was a home game. But we played her the last 20 minutes of the game, and she just came out on fire. And she had that goal where she beat the two people out wide and then finished. And I think she had a couple assists that game too.
Yeah.
So just, I would say their maturity to make that happen, because, how many situations have you been in where you tell a player that and they're just sour because they're not supporting and then they don't perform well. We didn't really have any of that. So that was just super cool. And I think all the players were just genuinely happy when their teammates got opportunities too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, and players had different moments. It was, like you said, early on, Maya Hansen was scoring goals and Morgan Turner hadn't scored any, I think for the first, it was a handful. And then she just, got hot, Lydia Rupert coming in to do that crazy ass penalty when I was like, why is Lydia taking this? It's just so surprising. So everyone found their moment. So clearly you worked that, I think, in a balanced way.
Yeah.
talking about players stepping up. Some of your players, I mean, part of the goal of this team is a pre-professional is to prepare them, to actually go pro. Some of your players already look to be doing that. Morgan Turner signed in Portugal, which is really exciting. Following any of these players' Instagrams after they sign is always really, you're just seeing this beautiful Portuguese city. I don't know what it's called. Yeah. Talk about your experience, because I'm guessing you may be getting some of these calls or maybe getting, talked to before, or if not, just talk about Morgan getting that and what you maybe, if there's more down the pike that you expect to see players signing.
Yeah. I'd like to get more calls. So if anybody's out there listening, or email and Lukic at mnaurora.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, super happy for Morgan Turner. I actually spoke to her yesterday. Things are going well there. She's excited. First game in I think 3 days. She said they've got 5 coaches. They've got a great field. She's got access to a workout facility. She's doing different activities that she's not used to. She's got 4 teammates that speak pretty good English. But she's loving it. So I'm excited for her to see how she does in the games. We've had a couple of other players get offers to go pro that maybe just weren't the right situations for them just yet. So we'll see what happens. But I know there's a lot of players on this team with a lot of potential. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see more coming maybe after their college seasons.
Well, I feel like that's a really good segue into now, what does the off season look like for you in terms of just looking at those players, still maintaining relationships with the current players, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so right now, just kind of been slowly picking away at meeting with each player on the team, just having kind of a postseason meeting and getting their thoughts for 2023. At the same time, starting to talk to new players for 2023 that are reaching out or I know of, just trying to start those initial relationships. But a lot of it's, going to depend on what's happening with the 2022 roster. But I think by probably the holidays, we'll start knowing more. I'm excited to watch some more games locally.
Yeah.
Went to the St. Thomas Gopher game. That was fun. Might go to the Gopher game tonight. I know Jenny's going to go to the Gopher game against Utah Tech. Molly that she used to work with. So lots of recruiting. The team's also been doing a lot of things out and about. We got to go to the Vikings game last weekend, which was super cool. Very nice of them to have us out in that space and show the team off in front of, I don't know, it wasn't full, but I feel like there had to be at least 50,000 people there. And they got the Aurora highlights on the Jumbotron. They had us out on the field in the third quarter.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
That is cool. And the Aurora players during MLS All-Star, there was a lot of MLS All-Star activities like at the Blackheart, but also just everywhere around. And I know like Sarah Fuller and Christelle, I think, were like hosting some, part of the concert or something. And they came in here after when the Cooligans are going on. And so happy they're enjoying after the season. They don't have to train in the morning anymore, Nicole. So that's cool. I wanted to ask you because, this thing about players going pro, I mean, it was also a really cool opportunity for you personally, and you do a great job of including your fellow coaches and the players. But I mean, ultimately, you didn't win the title. You still won W League Coach of the Year and trophy to be created and delivered by Equal Time. For real. It's not a joke. We'll definitely do that. But talk about what it means for you personally. Does it make you think I can't imagine coaching in a stadium like that and not thinking, wow, where could I go with this game?
Yeah. Definitely makes you think for sure. I would trade Coach of the Year for the title if I could.
Yeah.
But
that's what the Coach of the Year would say, by the way.
That's true.
That's why you won it, Nicole.
Yeah.
Very cool though. Was not expecting that. But yeah, I don't know what's next for me. I'm excited to get to the next year with Aurora and continue building off of what we've built off of. But for sure, the environment on game day makes you think about all kinds of stuff. This was my first year being a head coach for a senior team.
Not bad, by the way.
Definitely not.
And I really did enjoy it. I wasn't. I've always enjoyed coaching, but I have been an assistant for senior teams for so long that I just didn't know if I would like being the head coach or not. So it was a good first experience for sure, and has me moving in the right positive direction. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, we're all excited to see where you go with it and continue to watch the team grow. And I know in the next couple of months, you're going to have your hands totally full with recruiting and all of that. Are you planning on having players come stay here again, like bring it back to the beginning when we were talking about hosting and all of that? You want to have, now we can kind of open the doors to players coming in and like build really the team that you want to build?
Yeah, I would love to continue bringing players in from anywhere. We just want, we want the best players that we can get, and we want to keep recruiting players that have that mentality, that want to make themselves better. Because really that is a big piece of what this team is about. It's a stepping stone for players that want to play professionally. And last year when we were recruiting, we ran into a lot of players that were like, you know what, it's my summer. I only want to train twice a week.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. But then, you're not a good fit for us.
Yeah.
So we're really looking for those players that want the next level, want that next thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what helped our team culture be what it was, because everybody was on the same page about why they're showing up at 7 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'll say one of the things that made you, like, one of the coolest things is seeing all the gear you coaches had. Speaking of you being a head coach, like, I don't know how it worked. You brought very chill vibes to the head coach game. Nicole is not someone, yelling around. I mean, I'm sure there's moments on the sideline, but if you're watching the team train before, Nicole would just be chilling in her sweet gear. She'd be wearing her Aurora hat. I got the one back here. Yeah. And
the talisman hat. Yeah.
But you guys got a lot of stuff that people cannot buy or get. Really cool Hummel gear. You got teal that we couldn't get. What's your favorite piece of Aurora gear you got? Because you guys got, by the way, that's also the thing of the players walked away with, some cool gear, right? I'm assuming they didn't all it back.
Yeah. No, they got cool gear for sure. Have to put a limit on it because of NCAA rules, but just want to put it out there. We are following the rules.
Very good.
But my favorite gear, and I'm the only one that has it because my assistant's passed, if you can believe it, was the vest.
The vest?
Yeah.
I don't remember the vest. Why was there only one? Talk to us about this.
Here it is.
Oh yeah.
That is actually fire.
Why is there only one? Was it just a prototype you chose not to make, so you got the one?
Because nobody else wanted it. Yep.
Nice.
I know. I missed out completely.
I love it. Well, I'm really proud. I think I gave Danny one too. The thing I'm most proud of is that there was extra shirts at the first tryout when it was the old logo, and I have one of those. And it is a it's a women's cut, and so I'm showing arm, but I wear that at the bar, so I'm proud.
Wear that proudly, yeah.
Yeah, little cap sleeves for you.
Oh yeah. No, I'm buff for a girl. Yeah, I'm buff for a girl. Yeah, a little buff. So Nicole, I want to give you a chance. First of all, I think from me, and I know from Danny, thank you so much for all you did this year. This team Danny and I would just kind of look at each other. I was just blessed that Danny was doing it with me, and then also wow, this was so fun. Those playoff games, I think the only games I've ever felt that feeling you get in the stadium was probably U.S. qualifiers or the women's national team games. I don't think I've ever felt that at a Loons game. Just the level of energy. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to shout out or like thank, people, any other words you wanted to give to the fans or people at Aurora for the amazing year that you had.
I mean, the list of thank yous are just endless.
Yeah.
Really, anybody that was involved with this team, they were just so eager to help, and so eager to be positive and make people's experiences better. I'm just so thankful for that. The entire board and their vision, and they really, every single time they had an interaction with the players, I think the players felt like they were special, and the people at the top like knew about them, cared about them, which I think doesn't always happen. So that was really great. My assistants, Jenny, and Cassie, they put in so many endless hours of work, and just their feedback and their willingness to be honest with myself and players. I always really appreciate that. Matt, your brother, he was great to work with, really cared. I mean, he just really cares about women's soccer, which is always fun to just talk to him about anything, because he just starts spiraling, and he's so excited about whatever you're talking to him about, and he just falls in love with our players and puts them on a platform, which I think is really cool, because not all teams and female players have people like that. So and you guys for always covering our stuff has just been so great. Even like my mom, for example, who had no idea who Equal Time is, she's always like tuning in or like, just see what they posted. And I'm like, yes, Mom.
we run heavy in moms, Nicole.
Yeah.
We have a lot of moms.
Yeah. So, and everybody who covered us, like, it was so cool to see all the media after game that was waiting for us, besides the last game, because those were the last people I wanted to see. But it was just so great, and we're so honestly just blessed to have so many people involved with this team to keep us going. And I think that's what motivates me to, try to top year one and make year two even that much more special.
Well, I know I have heard so many people after the season who were like, I'm becoming a community owner next year. Like, I can't wait to get my hands on this and be a part of this. So I think the sky's the limit, and we're so excited for you. And thanks for the wonderful season, really. I mean, I think I speak for the community here when we say thank you for putting this team together and for bringing us such a polished end result.
Mm-hmm. And if people can engage with the team at the state fair, I won't be going to the state fair, but the state fair, they'll be there. There's new merch, I think, right? Maybe.
Yeah, rumor has it, new merch. I'll be there Sunday.
They'll be. Right. I think Aurora is going to fast become 9 months out of the year a merchandise company, because like people there's a lot more gear they can make and sell. So that'll be cool.
We'll be at the Loons game on Saturday too.
Oh, right on. Cool.
We know where to find them.
Catch some players. It's cool. There's some local players so that you can still have engagement like that. And then they get to, they're kind of the local stars. Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Thank
you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole.
This was a blast. Thank you for everybody. And thank you to the Patreons, like all the aforementioned mothers. I actually does make me happy thinking I'm going to be thinking of your mom watching. I'm sure my mom's watching. Hi, Mom. I love you very much. Thank you to all the Patreons, because it was the way we were able to cover Aurora this summer. It's not just out of the goodness of our hearts. Like, we need your money to do it. I mean, I was in St. Louis. I did not pay for that. You guys helped a lot with that. So, and that was why there were some highlights. So we appreciate everything you do, Nicole. And we're just excited for 23.
Yeah, let's go.
Danny says she's retired, but I'm not sure.
We'll get a chance.
Yeah.